Welcome to Yellowstone and the Grand Tetons, which offer huge herds of animals, crazy mountains and heights, and just an overall great experience. No more wasting your time. Let's get to hiking.
Welcome to Yellowstone National Park, where we're fueling up to go on our first hike called South Room Trail. It's recommended by a friend of ours. She'll be pretty cool. 4.7 miles, 528 feet of elevation gain, and is a loop route. The Wapiti, Clear Lake, Ribbon, and South Rim Trail offers multiple different environments. I mean, it has it all. From lakes, to rivers, to waterfalls, even bubbling mud, which you would expect to see in Yellowstone. But at the start, you are in open plains. These plains are not just tall grass, but filled with many colorful flowers. The beginning of this hike was truly beautiful. As we leave the fields, our trek continues, and we come across a very clear lake with the clever name of Clear Lake. I don't know who named this lake, but I think they should step on the brake. I know. I'm not very good at telling jokes. But this lake slightly reminds me of Red Rock Falls and Glacier. Mostly the clarity of the lake and how blue it was. But we pass that section and get to the desert-like region with bubbling mud and with areas of boiling water. This section of the hike was hot and dry. There was hydrogen sulfide in the air, which I think came from the boiling parts, but it reeked like rotten eggs. If you are coming to Yellowstone anytime soon, you're gonna smell this all throughout the park. As we move on to the most impressive part of the hike, I have to admit something. I forgot my shoes at home, so this hike was done in the elite shoe of Crocs. But anyway, we peaked at the top of our hike and got rewarded with a wall of colorful rocks and an extremely fast-flowing river between them. I was not expecting to see anything like this at Yellowstone, but when I arrived, I was completely blown away. The part of the river that stood out to me was the massive waterfall with the rainbow reflecting off the water. Nature is truly amazing. We continue on to the last part of our hike and pass a small section of fast-flowing river to end the hike. You already know how tired we are, so we had to stop and get some grub. I know, I'm asking myself the same question. Who takes a bite of a chicken sandwich like that? The other side is just staring at Never mind that horrendous chicken sandwich bite, but we head over to a very popular spot in Yellowstone, the Norris Geyser Basin. On this walk, your first stop is a very clear hot spring. The hot spring is definitely too hot to swim, but if you were able to swim, your body would thank you for soaking up the many minerals that hot springs have to offer. We push forward and eventually make it to the Steamboat Geyser, which is a very random geyser. It will erupt almost double the size of Old Faithful when it does, but there are always little spurts of water coming out. Today is a hot spring filled day because we are going to the one and only Grand Prismatic Spring. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the really colorful spring that you saw all over your 9th grade biology book. There are a couple of cool smaller hot springs on the walk up, but they are nothing compared to the Grand Prismatic Spring. It shows a rainbow of colors over its 300-foot diameter and dips down to a deep blue for its 160 feet of depth. This was basically a rainbow in water, and I don't know how to describe how beautiful it was. So you really have to come to Yellowstone to get the full effect. We are so dead after this long day, so we stopped to watch the incredible Old Faithful erupt 160 feet in the air and then hit the hay. I don't know what it was about the beds, my sleeping partner, or maybe the altitude, but I couldn't get sleep whatsoever. I mean, we're in Yellowstone, so who really cares? All I needed was to get cracked out on a cup of coffee and was back on the adventure with the first stop of Mammoth Hot Springs. Mammoth Hot Springs was partially closed, and what we saw wasn't loaded with too many hot springs, but it did have very interesting rock formations made up of different materials. I saw lots of crystallized salt in Mammoth Hot Springs, and it smelled like that rotten egg smell we talked about earlier in the video. On our way out, we saw that family. And if you are that family, keep on rocking that hot pink, baby. Looking good. Our legs are beat after our previous adventures to Banff and Glacier, and we wanted to check out a different aspect of this park because Yellowstone is known for its many animals. So we drove around on an animal hunt, keeping our eyes peeled for any creatures we pass. Animal 1, my brother.
Balls.
Nah, I'm just joking. Animal 1, bison. You should expect to see herds of bison on your trip to Yellowstone. They are about 6 feet tall and 11 feet long, with the ability to run faster than horses. You will see bison grazing pretty much any field in Yellowstone. Only a couple minutes after our first bison sighting, the next wildlife we encountered was a pronghorn. Pronghorns are the fastest land animal in North America, as they can run up to 60 miles per hour. They are prey to wolves, bears, cougars, and even eagles. Pronghorns are such a cool animal in the Yellowstone ecosystem. We continued our journey not seeing any more creatures until we watched many people trouble stopping and getting out of their cars. They were looking at a black bear walking very far in the distance. If you zoom in on binoculars, black bears look like this. Oh, who's the best puppy in the world? Black bears can weigh up to 660 pounds and have developed the instinct of flight instead of fight. Now, this doesn't mean they can't get aggressive, but their first reaction to danger is to run in the other direction. Unless it's a mother protecting her cub, they do not mess around. At this point, we had been driving for a while, passing bison pretty much the whole car ride, and we ended up deciding to go home. On that drive, we had a vague sighting of a bald eagle. We finally made it back to the hotel, and right as we got out of the car, there was an elk grazing our hotel's grass. Elk are a keystone species in Yellowstone, which basically means if Yellowstone didn't have them, the ecosystem would change dramatically. Elk antlers can spread out to 4 feet and weigh up to 20 pounds. We settled in for the rest of the night, cooked up some Santa Fe style rice and beans with chicken. Oh my gosh, that was good. And closed our eyes for day 3. On day 3, we left Yellowstone and took the hour-and-a-half drive over to the Grand Tetons. This drive was full of amazing landscapes, mostly as we got closer to the Tetons, with incredible mountain ranges in the back. We arrived at the national park and had to get food and snacks to fuel us up for what is next. 3.8 miles, 423 feet of elevation gain, and it is a loop route. The Taggart Lake Loop Trail was a moderately challenging hike. It offered rivers, lakes, wildflowers, and some impressive jaggedy mountains. However, where we started was an open rocky path that we walked on for only a couple tenths of a mile. We kept trekking and pushed on into a woodsy area. This woodsy area had a dry but green environment with an impressive river flowing down from the melting snow on top of the mountain. We journey across the river and the woods clear out so we can admire the mountains that the Grand Tetons behold. We continue our journey, ascending closer to the top part of our hike, viewing the beautiful mountains on the way out. These mountains transform into another small section of woods, but we push through and make it to the Taggart Lake. Taggart Lake was a very large 80 feet deep lake surrounded by a rich and green environment. We couldn't stay at the lake forever, so my family and I continued our hike. The walk down had some impressive views of the mountains, but not much else. There were open fields with flowers and different colored grass, but no major attractions on the way back down. The hike ends, but our adventures don't. On the drive back to Yellowstone, we got stopped by I don't know how many freaking horses, but it took like 4 minutes for them to get all across the road. It was the most random road stoppage that me or my family has ever encountered. We finished off our Yellowstone and Teton trip, saying goodbye to the bison. Bye, bison! Looking back at all the memories that we had created. Overall, I had a blast in these parks, so I give the Park of Yellowstone an 8.2 on bewilderment, a 7.9 on adventure, a 7.0 on personnel, and a 7.0 on travel factor. The overall trip experience, a 7.8. I give the Park of the Tetons a 7.8 on bewilderment, a 5.2 on adventure, a 6.0 on personnel, and a 5.0 on travel factor. The overall trip experience, a 6.2. If you enjoyed the video and you think I deserve it, please subscribe to the channel and watch me travel around Glacier National Park.